Let's go to 1 Samuel this morning. Just trying to remember. 1 Samuel and chapter number 27. First Samuel chapter 27. The Bible says, "And David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines, and Saul shall despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand. And David arose, and he passed over with the 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, even David with his two wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's wife. And it was told Saul that David was fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. And David said unto Achish," and by the way, this Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath, is the same man who David pretended to be crazy in front of just a while before this, just a few chapters before this. So this is the same king. But it says in verse 5, "David said unto Achish, If I have now found grace in thine eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there. For why should thy servant dwell in the royal city with thee? Then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertaineth unto the kings of Judah unto this day. And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was a full year and 4 months. And David and his men went up and invaded the Geshurites and the Gezrites and the Amalekites. For those nations were of old the inhabitants of the land, as thou goest to Shur, even unto the land of Egypt. And David smote the land, and left neither man nor woman alive, and took away the sheep, and the oxen, and the asses, and the camels, and the apparel, and returned, and came to Achish. And Achish said, Whither have ye made a road today? And David said, Against the south of Judah, and against the south of the Jerahmeelites, and against the south of the Kenites. And David saved neither man nor woman alive, to bring tidings to Gath, saying, lest they should tell on us, saying, So did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwelleth in the country of the Philistines. And Achish believed David, saying, He hath made his people Israel utterly to abhor him, therefore he shall be my servant forever." Heavenly Father, I want to lift up this time that we have together up to you. We just ask you to bless our time. And Lord, bless the study of your word this morning. Please show us what we need to see here, Lord, and help us to apply it to our lives. Lord, I thank you for this opportunity to meet in your name. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, a couple of things. Like I said, this Achish, let me start here. A little bit of background. David has been running for his life for quite a while from King Saul. King Saul's tried to kill him several times. And finally, David just says, you know what? And it says that he said in his heart, so that could be kind of telling right there. But he said, you know what? I'm just going to get out of the country. I'm going to go live with the Philistines, and I'm going to get away from Saul, because he's going to just keep on trying to kill me. Now, okay, everything that happens after that is based on that decision that he makes in his heart. Okay, so either that was the right choice or it wasn't. It's kind of it's difficult to say one way or another. And you know, that's a lot of decisions in life that you have to make. Sometimes looking back on them, you're going, you know what, I don't know if that was the right decision, but I also don't know if that was the wrong decision. And in this case, the Bible, it's not like the biblical writer here chimes in and says, this wasn't what God wanted. So I don't know. I can't tell you definitively. I would say this. I believe it was God that had told him to go live in Judah, if my memory serves me correctly. And so you could make a case for maybe David shouldn't have left that area. But he does. He decides, you know what, I got to get out of that area. I'm going to go back to Achish, the king of Gath. And again, that's where Goliath's from. It's from that city. And so David is well known. Apparently, David, by this time, is so well known, and even the Philistines seem to be aware that he's not, that he's out of sorts with the king of Israel, because they don't kill him on sight. They harbor him. The king of Gath even gives him a city called Ziklag to go and live at. Probably a little farm town. I kind of picture, but he gives him basically a little base of operations to go and operate from. And so David was at least pretty well known, there had to be something about David. I don't know if it was charisma. I don't know if it was his battle expertise, but something, I guarantee you, Achish thought he would exploit. And here he looks at David and he goes, you know what, I think I can use this guy. I think I can use this to my advantage. And so it's hard to understand everything that goes on in this chapter, because this is really weird. He's going to the Philistines, to the very city where Goliath was from, and they help him. That's very strange indeed, when these enemies help him. I don't know why this is... I was watching a special on the 9/11 attacks yesterday. I was watching a little special on it, and I've never really looked at all the... I knew Osama bin Laden was behind it. I knew that he hated America. I know the Muslim, there's problems with Islam there. There's problems with Western culture. They don't like capitalism. There's all kinds of issues going on there. There's all kinds of reasons behind that kind of stuff. But it actually, I found this pretty profound. It actually started in 1980 when Russia invaded Afghanistan. And Russia fought a war there for 9 years, from 1980 to 1989. And we had CIA operatives in there, and we did some manipulations and things. We threw like $1 billion at it, I think, per year, that we would give to warlords over there, and these guys who would... And there was this little bitty group that had snuck into the country from outside Afghanistan called Al-Qaeda. And we didn't think anything of them. And, we didn't think they were that big of a deal. And the leader of Al-Qaeda was actually from Saudi Arabia. He was from a very Osama bin Laden was from Saudi Arabia. We're on very friendly terms with Saudi Arabia. He was from a well-to-do family. They were very well off. It wasn't what I thought. I was thinking, here's this guy from a poor community. He's just been totally, he's been abused all of his life. Not at all. Actually, he came from basically kind of a silver spoon in his mouth, and he just kind of wanted to cause trouble. And so he went looking for it, and it was easy for him to blame all of his problems on America and blame all of the problems on and it was his way of gaining power. What I'm getting at is, it's really weird how these political winds shift, and how at one point we're helping Al-Qaeda, and the next point we're not helping them, and the next point they're hitting us, and the next point we're basically turning the world upside down just to get them. And you see all these political winds shifting, and I see that here in this chapter. David is going from absolutely spanking the Philistines, killing their most elite soldier from the city of Gath, and he's going from that to then he's running from Saul, and he's out of sorts with Saul, and then he's running to Achish and Gath, and he's putting on the show like he's crazy, and then he leaves there and goes to the south of Judah, and then he comes back, and it's just weird how politics works. It's you can't figure it. You really can't. There are best guesses, but it's crazy what's going on in this chapter. The fact that David has gone to the Philistines and they are giving him shelter. It's astonishing. But Achish gives him the city of Ziklag. And it tells us that David goes out, verse number 8, David and his men invade the Geshurites and the Gezrites and the Amalekites. Now the Amalekites shouldn't even exist at this point because King Saul was supposed to have wiped them out. That was actually why he got the kingdom rent from him, if you'll remember, because he didn't utterly wipe them out in every sense. And so they are still around. The Amalekites in Scripture tend to be a picture of the flesh, and it's kind of a picture of our human weakness, and how really the best of Christians really are just sinners saved by grace at their best, aren't they? Because they have that flesh that sticks around, and one day it will have to be put down as well, and there will have to be a new body. But he goes out and he invades the Geshurites, the Gezrites, and the Amalekites. Now these guys are friendly with the Philistines. And so when David does this, he kills everybody. When he does these raids, he wipes everybody out. Now, tons of people who scoff at the Bible today, tons of people who scoff at God, would say, why would a loving God have everyone wiped out? You know, or why would he tell Saul to wipe out all the Amalekites, women and children included? Why would David, a man after God's own heart, go in here and wipe out all of them, women and children? Well, okay, it tells you his linear, I don't know if that's the right word, reasoning here, though. He can't leave any witnesses. He can't leave any witnesses because he can't have anyone running back and telling the Philistines what he's done. And so when he comes into the Philistines, he tells them, hey, I've been invading Judah. That's not true. He has not been invading Judah. He tells them we've been and against the south of the Jerahmeelites and the Kenites. It hasn't been doing that. So when he tells Achish, I've been invading Judah, Achish believes him. And Achish goes, what does it say in verse 12? It says, and Achish believed David, saying, he hath made his people Israel utterly to abhor him. He has been invading Judah, so now they hate him. He's been making his own people hate him. That wasn't true at all. But he hasn't been leaving any witnesses. Nobody's there to tell Achish what he's been doing. I will say this. And this is going to, I don't mean to sound cold or anything like, I really don't. And, and I do believe we're living in an age of grace where I believe the Lord's wrath is not being poured out at all. I don't think the wrath of God is being poured out right now. Now, I will say this. If you are a nation and you are going to conquer an enemy nation, maybe that enemy nation is mean toward you or something, you kind of have to wipe them out, because if you don't, trust me, it will come back to bite you. It will. History shows this. When the Romans would conquer someone, they typically didn't utterly wipe them out. They would enslave them. And then sometimes they would let them become citizens and all this. Rome's downfall was from the inside out, and Rome was taken down because of this. They trained their enemies how to fight, and then their enemies wound up conquering them. And that's an oversimplified version of it, but that's basically what has happened. You're seeing that in America today too, and that's the brutally honest truth of it. How would we do away with sin in the world? Let me ask you that question. How would we do away with sin? Well, you'd have to kill everybody, because we're sinners. I'm glad the Lord hadn't done that. There was a time He did. Noah's flood. How do you get rid of all the sin? You got to drown it out. One day He'll burn it up. It's got all. Now, I'm glad we leave those kinds of things in the hands of the Lord. Okay, that's not for people to decide. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sitting here going, I think we all ought to go out here and make war on sinners. Are you kidding? We're sinners. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying if you're going to do away with sin, you have to eradicate the sinners. There's no other way around it. So if you're going, in this case, if you're going to do away with enemies, you kind of have to eradicate all of them. You have to. And if you think that's brutal, or what, most of the enemies of Israel would have done the exact same thing had they had the chance. most of their enemies were just this brutal. I'm astonished today at how people don't realize what human beings have been like throughout history. The word brutal applies. I was listening to a man speaking the other day. He was actually speaking on slavery. And he was speaking about the fact that slavery has been worldwide forever. And actually it's just been the past couple hundred years where people have had a problem with it, where people have actually fought it. That's been it. You go back and study history for the past 5,000 to 6,000 years, you're going to find slavery. First mention of slavery was something like 4,500 years ago. In the book of Exodus, you'll find Israel being enslaved by Egypt. It's old. It's an old institution. But they were talking about the brutality of those things. They were talking about, and I'm going to try not to, I probably don't need to go into too much of that detail. But let me say this, it's brutal. People have been brutal. They have. And a lot of Israel's enemies, while you read that and it says that David didn't leave any of them alive, I'm telling you right now, those people were brutal. They would have done the same thing to the Israelites could they have done it. You see what I'm saying? You can argue all you want on that kind of stuff. I tell you this, God is going to come back one day and He's going to judge this earth, and nobody's going to argue with Him. There's going to be no one reasoning with Him of, oh, this is too brutal. Oh, forget that. It's just going to, His wrath is going to be poured out. It's going to be poured out. I'm glad right now He's given us grace, and we're living in an age of grace. He's calling people to come and be saved. He's calling people to come to the cross and be forgiven of their sins. He's calling people and He's telling them, hey, I want to save your soul. I want to take you to heaven. I love that message, but there's coming a day He's going to close the door on that, just like He closed the door on the ark. Boy, howdy, people are going to see the wrath of God. They're going to think, whoa, this is brutal. First of all, in our chapter here, I want you to notice there are missed opportunities. Missed opportunity. When you get off in sin, when a Christian gets off into a life of sin, you're going to miss opportunities. I read this chapter and I think, what a waste. What a waste. This could have been so great. King Saul, if he'd been a godly man, you know, ruling and reigning and just being a godly man, and his son Jonathan right there at his side, and David at his other side, how powerful could that have been? What a waste. I can't tell you how many times I've seen sports stars do this. They'll get full of themselves and they'll go after each other. And, did you know the Philadelphia Eagles went to 4 straight NFC championships? 4 straight. Same quarterback, Donovan McNabb. They brought in this wide receiver for him to throw the football to. I think he went to they took him all the way to the Super Bowl. Terrell Owens. Lasted like 1 year. Because after that they couldn't stand each other. They wouldn't even talk. If they did talk, they cussed at each other. Were mad at each other. What a waste. What a waste. You know, you look at that and you go, wow, all the talent and all the skill these guys have, you could turn it into a couple of Super Bowls, and you guys can't get over yourselves. What a waste. How pathetic. All y'all have to do is humble yourself a little bit and realize you both need each other. One of you needs the other one to catch the ball. The other one needs that one to throw it. And you need your whole offensive line, which gets no credit, to block for you while you do it. Get over yourself. But no, got full of 0 Super Bowl rings on either one of their hands to this day. Neither one of them. They were good football players too. And you see it all. That's just one example among many. There's tons of them. And you go, what a waste. And you look at, even, study World War II, and there was great generals for the U.S., Dwight Eisenhower, and then you look at George Patton, and the two of them did not get along very well at all. And there could have been so much more accomplished. George Patton wanted to go in and seize basically all of Germany and leave none of it to Russia. Eisenhower was like, no, we've got to appease our friends. In the 1980s, they're breaking down the Berlin Wall. And you wonder how much could have been different had those two guys got on the same page and gotten along. What a waste. And here, King Saul, if he could just wake up and realize what a guy he's got in David. But no, he doesn't see what he's got. So David leaves the country, goes and lives with the Philistines, still successful down there, but he goes and lives with the Philistines. What a waste. What a missed opportunity. Every one of us are going to have missed opportunities. But we need to wake up and see it. And how's it put? Seize the day. Stop missing our opportunities. Stop missing our opportunities to serve the Lord. Stop missing our opportunities with our families. Stop missing our opportunities to be a blessing. What a missed opportunity here. I mean, this whole chapter, the whole story of David and Saul, just one big missed opportunity. Number two, we can learn here to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. David behaves himself pretty sharply with the enemy here. Pretty smart. He navigates he navigates life pretty sharply. I don't think the Lord would necessarily encourage Christians to be ignorant of what's going on around them, to not navigate this world carefully and wisely. David did. David even lies to Achish. Maybe we shouldn't lie, I don't know, but I tell you, I don't know. For example, if I told the government everything I've ever do with my children, the government would probably step in and try to take my kids from me. I know certain states would. I know they would. If I told certain states that I had a gun on me or something like that, I'm just not going to advertise that sort of stuff. I'm going to behave myself wisely, even though I'm advertising it on YouTube. I don't care. I'm simply saying, you know what I'm saying? Just in life, just behave yourself wisely. Wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Number three, do whatever you can. David doesn't have all the options that he used to have. He can't go up to the king's house and sit with the king. He can't lead the king's troops anymore. So what's he got? He's got 600 ragtag men. He's going to go live with the Philistines. He's going to invade the Geshurites and the Gezrites and the Amalekites. He's going to do what he can, when he can. He's biding his time. Do whatever you can for the Lord. Maybe our hands are tied in some areas, but do whatever you can. Do what you're able. Daniel, this world is changing rapidly, politically, economically. In your future, I would encourage you to behave yourself wisely. Be wise with your decisions. I would also tell you to do whatever you can for the Lord. Do whatever you can. You may not have the options that people used to have. I don't know. Things are changing so fast. Do what you can. It's kind of like missionaries that are over in countries where it's dangerous to be a missionary. They have to do what they can. How they can. They have to think carefully about how they do it. Do whatever you can. Make adjustments. So many people, if we're not careful, we get into this rigidity and we want life. All of us yearn for stability, and all of us yearn for things to stay the same. I said this last Sunday, things are always changing. Things are constantly changing. either getting worse or getting better, but they're constantly changing. And if you want them to get better, you have to act upon them. You have to do something. There has to be action put toward it. Even if the action is just praying and asking God to do something, you've still got to take action. You see what I'm saying? You've still got to do something. Things are constantly changing. You're going to have to make adjustments. You have to make adjustments. When I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. Dad would give me responsibilities from time to time, feed the cows. I didn't want to do that. Those bulls are what? 2,500 pounds? Is that right? 2,000? So that's a ton. And they're not all unfriendly. Dad's was. Dad's bull, when I was growing up, was unfriendly. The one I remember, he would not let me in the same lot with him. He would not. So I would sneak up to the barn. I remember sneaking up to the barn, hoping he wouldn't see me. Because the cows knew as soon as I walked up there, they were going to get fed. So they would come running from wherever they were at. They knew the routine. And you could hear the ground, pounding when they're coming. And so I would sneak up there really craftily. I would try to use the trees to block my movements, and I would get up there because I had to get in that lot before the bull did, and I had to get over the gate into the barn before that bull got up there, or he would make it very intense. And so I got up there, and I'd get up there, and I'd throw that hay as far away from the barn as I could, because I wanted that bull away from me when I came out of that barn. I remember that kind of stuff too. But there were certain responsibilities like that, certain chores. Bush hog over here, hay, fence, certain chores and things, but I didn't have a lot of chores. I really didn't. It wasn't too hard. Not a lot of responsibility. Had some lawn mowing responsibilities and things. Then in my early 20s, got a job and had responsibility. You have to get up and be at work at a certain time. You have to do a good job for your employer. Had certain responsibility. Then I got married, and my responsibilities quadrupled. No, I'm just kidding. My wife's back there. I'm teasing her, but no, my responsibilities went up. And then we had a baby on the way. And then my responsibilities really went up. And now we're expecting our 7th. I'll tell you, the responsibilities have not gotten lighter. It just goes up and up and up. Pastoring a church. The word is responsibilities. Responsibilities. You're going to have to make adjustments. Life is full of them. I mean, absolutely full of adjustments. Loved ones are going to pass away. You're going to have to make adjustments. People are going to quit working with you. You have to make adjustments. In school, in college, those teachers, let's say you've got 5 different teachers. You're going to have 5 different personalities. You're going to have to make adjustments. Each class. Make adjustments. Life is full of adjustments. I know they're not comfortable and I know they're not fun. There's coming a day there won't be any more adjustments. But that's heaven. And so when we expect this life to be no adjustments, no change, it's unrealistic. Unrealistic expectation. You'll be miserable if that's what you're expecting. It shouldn't shock us when things change and we have to make adjustments. We should actually expect it. Try to prepare for it as best we can. Make adjustments. Number 5, get creative. David is very creative in this chapter. He thinks outside the box. He thinks outside the box. I'm one of those, I don't like being creative. I like just doing things like they've always been done. I like I said, like stability. I like just more of a routine. But sometimes we have to get creative. I like in my parenting of my children, I like routine. I try to provide stability as best I can. I want those things from me. But sometimes I have to get creative. Keithan doesn't have the same personality as Theron. Theron doesn't have the same personality as Kaylee. Kaylee doesn't have the same personality as Brennan. None of them have the same personality. Kaylee and Thessalon are very different. To me, Kaylee is like a second mom to my kids. Thessalon is like, what's the word? Wild child, according to her papa. Thessalon is, just a kid all the way. She's joking all the time. She's seeing what all she can get away with. And so my parenting, sometimes I have to get creative. There has to be differences in how I parent each one of them. Little subtle differences. I want it to be stable. I want to treat them all the same, but there's going to be other ways I have to change some things up a little bit and get a little creative. David is getting creative with what he's doing. David could just go sit in a cave somewhere, but he's not. He goes and gets a town, a base of operations, and he invades Judah's enemies. He's like, basically, if King Saul won't let me help, fine, I'll do it on my own. And he goes and does it on his own. He gets creative about it. He lies to Achish about it. He goes to the Philistines. He gets creative. Sometimes, Daniel, you may have to get creative in how you make money in life. You may have to get creative. Get creative with your family. Might have to get creative in church. We have a lot of little kids coming to church. Probably going to need some creativity in how we approach them, and how we train them, and how we teach them, how we nurture them and mature them. I would encourage you to get creative. So number one, we have missed opportunities. We all have missed opportunities. Try to come to grips with that. Get past it. The ones that you've already missed, you got to get past it. And you got to seize the day and not miss the opportunities you have right now. Because a lot of times we'll focus on the opportunities we missed in the past. We won't see the opportunities we have right now. And then, of course we're going to miss the opportunities we have in the future because we're missing the opportunities we have right now. Don't miss your opportunities. At any point here, Saul could have said, you know what, I've messed up. David, come on home. Let's be friends. Let's be as close as brothers. I would caution you about missed opportunities, focusing on them too much, and not seeing the opportunities you have at hand. You need to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. I'm not for being deceitful, but be careful in how you deal with people, Daniel. And I'm not picking on you this morning, but this is going to apply more to you. You have more of your life ahead of you than any of us do. But this applies to everybody, okay? I really am not picking on you. But be wise. I'm concerned a little bit, just to be open with you here. You're planning on going off to college. You're going to meet all kinds of people. Be very wise in how you deal with people. Maybe I shouldn't say this as a preacher, as a pastor, as a Christian. Feel free to lie to somebody if you need to get out of a bad spot. David lied to Achish, okay? That's all. If you're in danger or something of that nature, do whatever you got to do to get out of that. You be wise, okay? I hope you're never in danger, okay? I hope sometimes danger can find us. Sometimes the Lord allows that. Sometimes wake us up, show us the world's not okay, and we need to get busy for Him. Be wise in how you deal with people. Do whatever you can for the Lord in your life, whatever you can. He may not call you to preach. Maybe you can teach a Sunday school class. He may not call you to do that, but you can witness. Maybe he'll call you to drive a church van or something. I don't know. But you can witness wherever you're at. You can witness at work. You can witness at school. Do whatever you can. Whatever you're able. Be open, very open, to making adjustments. Just get used to it. Your whole life. Get used to it. You know, we had Keith and I don't mean to run this in the ground or anything, but then he we learned that he was a diabetic. That's quite an adjustment. I didn't realize how big of an adjustment that is. I can remember seeing people that would order in a restaurant or something, and the waiter or waitress would bring them a regular Coke, and they would say, "No, I ordered a diet." And I would think to myself, Diet Coke means they're on a diet. They're trying to lose weight. I would always think that. I would always think, just drink the one. It's not going to kill you. Big deal. I always kind of felt like they were maybe making a big deal out of nothing. No. If they're a diabetic, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. I didn't realize how big. Major adjustment. All of a sudden, I understand blood sugars, and all of a sudden, I've got to pay attention to his blood sugars, and all of a sudden, he's 2 years old. He can't do it. I've got to give him shots. I don't like shots. My only history of shots was I avoided them. Tried not to go to the doctor if I knew I was going to get shots. I think my older sister, Beth, she got up. They were going to give her shots one day. I wasn't there. I was told this when she was a little kid. She got up and ran around the table. My mom had to chase her around the table and make her lay down and take shots. Was that true? Or am I fibbing? Okay.
The part about it was the nurse had a boy in the same class. The whole school knew about it.
The whole school knew about it. Life is full of adjustments. Just get used to it. Embrace it. In fact, if you embrace it, it won't harm you. Get creative. Be creative in your life. Think outside the box. Sometimes it's good to think inside the box. Sometimes it's good to get creative too. I want us to glean these 5 truths from this chapter. Missed opportunities, wise as serpents, do whatever you can, make adjustments, and get creative. If I could encourage you with those. Now, all of those, I would encourage you, stay in the will of God. Okay? All of that. Try to stay in the will of God. Say, Lord, I want to get creative, but if this isn't your will. Lord, I want to do whatever I can, but if this isn't your will. Try to stay in the will of God. Let's close with a word of prayer this morning. Heavenly Father,